And when I woke up this morning, I was feeling pretty dangerous.
And if we're talking tight ends and we're going into round 2, maybe round 3, give me Ian Thomas, please. Let's just do the damn thing.
Just based on giving his overall ability. Again, I like his arm. I think he can make every throw.
The pick at number 12 is in.
All right, we're back. Cover 1, the Draft Podcast. I'm Russell Brown. With me on this Easter Sunday, Jeff Risdon of the Lions Wire. Jeff, how we doing, my man?
It is great to be with you, man. Thanks for having me back.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Appreciate your time, especially on a holiday, but we're doing the draft stuff. We're in quarantine. As I've been asking a couple of my guests this week, you guys staying safe over there on the west side?
Yeah, we are. We're ready to get out and get back at it. I got 2 kids that are avid basketball players, and it's killing them to be just dribbling on our basement floor. We're ready to get out and get at it.
Yeah, man, it's like every day I'm like trying to just get out, get some fresh air, try to make sure I don't go stir crazy. But it's definitely it's been brutal, and I don't know what's going to happen in another 2 weeks when the draft's over, because that's what's been keeping me sane. But
yeah, same here. Yeah, I've been focusing on getting as much work done as I can, and watching as many prospects as I can, and it's been a good way for me to do it. But I know that a lot of other people don't have that, unfortunately, and
yeah.
So we're here for you.
Exactly. That's why we are combining this show to talk Lions football with you, and probably anything NFL draft that we might get to. But I want to start with the Lions free agency. Earlier this week, I spoke with Joe Goodberry of The Athletic with the Cincinnati Bengals, and we did one with Mark Bullock for the Washington Redskins, who also writes for The Athletic DC. You're my guy for the Lions at the Lions Wire. You guys, of course, can find him on Twitter at Jeff Risdon. That's Risdon, Jeff Risdon. So, Jeff, the Lions free agency is pretty much come and gone. They've made some moves. They've definitely turned their roster kind of inside out a little bit. It's definitely a little bit different defensively than it was last year. Take me through kind of what you think they've done free agency-wise, and maybe your favorite move and your least favorite move.
Yeah, they seem like they've shuffled chairs more than they've actually upgraded at a lot of places. The biggest and notable move for me is bringing in Jamie Collins, because I think what he offers the Lions is something that they didn't have last year. He is a guy who can control the middle of the field defensively in coverage. He can do it against the run. He's versatile. He's athletic. He's a freak athlete. I think that gets lost a lot. He's sort of the bigger chess piece that they didn't really have last year. And I think he'll make the most impact of any of the free agents. Danny Shelton up front will be a help.
Mm-hmm.
Getting the changeover on the defensive line had to happen. Everybody was hurt last year. I'm going to miss Damon Snacks Harrison for his personality, but not for what he offered on the field last year. Mm-hmm. Hopefully Shelton can provide better than that. But you traded out Darius Slay's gone. They replaced him with Desmond Trufant. That's a net loss. There's no way you can justify that. That's a gain. And offensively, Rick Wagner to Hal Vaitai at right tackle. That's a push for me. It might be a push. I happen to think that Wagner is due for a bounce back year, and I'm very sad that it will be in Green Bay.
In Green Bay,
as
exactly.
a Lions fan, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm a little worried about that. They didn't really seem to do anything that moved the needle offensively other than shuffling the chairs.
Yeah, well, and the thing with the offensive line with Big V, is he does bring some versatility. He does a decent job in the run game. And, initially, like when they reported that was who they were signing, it was like, oh, goodness, a 5-year, $50 million deal. What are they doing? And then you look at the contract. Really, it looks like a 2-year deal. They've got a potential out in 2 years. So it doesn't seem too bad. From what you've seen on the contract, are you in agreement with me? it doesn't look that bad, right?
It's higher than I would have paid him, and it's probably higher than what he would have gotten from anywhere else. But if he's a solid quality starting right tackle, he's worth it.
Yeah. Well, and I'm with you, though. I think Rick Wagner is going to bounce back. It's unfortunate it's going to be with Green Bay. He never really lived up to the contract that he was given from us, but at the same time, this is what the Lions do. It just seems like with Bob Quinn, they constantly are shuffling the chairs on the offensive line. They don't invest enough money, or it seems like a time, in these offensive linemen. I mean, we've seen what they've done with guys like Larry Warford, Laken Tomlinson. Obviously, they signed Rick Wagner, then they let him go. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with, a guy like Taylor Decker, who's going to have a contract coming up. What's the long-term answer with Frank Ragnow, who, I mean, I know they like, but I'm obviously looking way too far down the road.
Yeah.
But I like that you brought up the Slay trade. That was obviously huge, probably one of the biggest things that they've done this offseason, of course, bringing in Desmond Trufant. I think they are definitely showing their hand that they don't have a long-term answer at the cornerback position, but that's where we get into the draft side of things. With that being said, I mean, they've got the third pick of the draft. They own the keys to the car, essentially, for this draft. It's got to be Jeff Okudah, whether it's at 3 or if they move back. I mean, what do you see them doing with this third pick?
Unless Chase Young is there, it's Jeff Okudah. And I agree with you that it's at 3 or it's at 5 or 6 if they were to happen to trade back. I really don't see them focusing on any other player. I've said this several times now. I would bet my kids' college fund that they will draft an Ohio State defensive player in the first round.
That's actually a pretty safe bet, because if Chase Young falls to 3, they're not trading out. They're going to take him. And if he's not there and there's a team that wants that quarterback, you bring up a good point. They're probably going to trade back, whether it's 5 or 6. Do you think there's a team on the outside, maybe a Jacksonville at 9 or maybe another team that's interested? And obviously I'm kind of pushing us farther down the board than we would initially want. But is there a team out there that would want a quarterback, you think, that maybe we aren't talking about outside of the Chargers and Dolphins?
Not that I can see that can get up into the top 5 or 6. I think New England is a prime candidate to do something at quarterback. Mm-hmm. But are they going to move up that high? The Colts, they don't have the ammo anymore. They have Phillip Rivers for a year, and they don't have a pick until 34. Mm-hmm. So, or 34. They have Washington's pick. So I don't see anybody that can move up and make that happen. They might want to. They might try. But, as far as dealing number 3, you're looking at, is Miami, do they want to make sure that they get their own guy that they prefer? And by the way, I happen to think that's Justin Herbert and not Tua Tagovailoa.
Agreed.
Or do the Chargers want to jump over that and get the guy and make sure that they get their guy and nobody from Jacksonville or somebody jumps up from them? Because the distance from 6 to that spot and 9 to that spot is probably about the same. Remember, Jacksonville has 20 as well. Mm-hmm. So they do have more ammo to move up than the Chargers do. So that's the complication. You got to look at 4 too. If the Lions trade out of 3 and they go back to 5 or 6, who's the Giants taking at number 4? It doesn't seem like they're going to take Jeff Okudah. They loaded up on defensive backs last year. They desperately need a linebacker. They desperately need an offensive tackle. So then you're at 5. Okay, you can get Okudah. You're at 6. Is Miami going to take Jeff Okudah? Well, they can certainly use him, mm-hmm. but they have some other needs too. They need offensive linemen. They could certainly use Justin or Isaiah Simmons. I always call him Justin. It's Isaiah Simmons in the middle of their defense. They have some options there that they would go with. I wouldn't rule out Derek Brown going there as well. So I do think that they can fall back to 5 or 6 and still get Okudah, and I think they'd be very happy doing that.
Well, I'm glad you brought all that up, because I was going to ask that question. Do you think the Giants are a potential sleeper for a Jeff Okudah, just simply because I think he would certainly upgrade that defensive back room a hell of a lot more than what they have. But at the same time, you're right. I mean, they don't have a significant need there. They have a significant need on the offensive line from, right tackle, left tackle to linebacker. So, I think the Giants are probably set in stone with one of, the offensive tackles or Isaiah Simmons. So if the Lions move back from 3 to 5 or 6, what's the draft capital that we should be expecting? I mean, I know we could do the Jerry Jones I always say the Jerry Jones,
the Jimmy Johnson chart.
Yeah. Yeah. We do the trade chart. We can do that all day long. I did a mock draft last week that kind of put that together. I could see the Lions getting a future first-round pick just simply because it's for the quarterback position, but that doesn't match up with the trade chart necessarily. So what's the realistic expectation that you think we could see out of a trade, and what kind of draft capital the Lions will have?
I think if it's Miami, I think you're getting 5, and I believe it's 26 is their other pick. Mm-hmm. And I think that would probably be it to get 3. I don't think you would get much more than that. The Chargers, you're getting 6, and you're probably getting a first next year because I don't think that they have their second round pick would technically get it done. But I think that having that extra first, and that's something that, by the way, then that Bob Quinn and the Lions could flip to get another player if they want to, especially at the end of that first round. Like, hey, we'll give you 35 in next year's first so we can get another guy this year and in the system right away.
Right.
That's the type of thing that I think they're looking at.
Well, and I hope they are. And I mean, in an ideal world, getting from 3 to 5 and then getting 26. I mean, it sounded like kind of a pipe dream a while back, but it seems like as we get closer and as you mentioned, it kind of makes me reassure myself, okay, I'm not living in fantasy land. I'm actually living in reality, and that getting 26 seems like a realistic possibility. So, all right, let's say they move from 3 to 5 and Miami goes up, they get Herbert, we get Jeff Okudah, and we get 26 as well. When we get down to 26, what are some options that you see for the Lions as realistic possibilities? Is it another offensive lineman? Is it somebody on the defensive side of the football again? Is there a linebacker there? I mean, really walk me through what you think they could do at 26.
Yeah, they have some options there, and I think wide receiver definitely comes into play there too. Remember, they do not have a wide receiver under contract after 2020 right now. They're going to extend Kenny Golladay. I would be very surprised if that didn't happen. I think everybody would be surprised if that didn't happen, Golladay himself included. So they got to get wide receivers. Marvin Jones and Danny Amendola are not going to be on this team in 2021. So you got to look ahead. This is a great wide receiver class. If a guy like Justin Jefferson is there, if a guy like CeeDee Lamb somehow falls, I don't see that happening. But you know, a guy of that ilk, maybe a guy like Laviska Shenault if he passes the medical sniff test. Which he may or may not. A guy like Denzel Mims or Brandon Ayuk, guys who were at the Senior Bowl. I know the Lions spent a lot of time looking at both of those guys when they were down in Mobile. They coached Mims. They liked him a lot. He would certainly be an interesting fit. Stylistically, he seems to fit what they look for in a wide receiver as a bigger guy. Doesn't necessarily get open all that well, but creates space for himself very well with the ball in the air with his physicality. That sounds like their kind of guy. So that's a definite possibility. If they're keeping Okudah, they have to get a pass rusher at some point too. It sort of takes cornerback out because then you're set there. Yeah. Offensive lineman, that's a weird area. That late first, a guy like Cesar Ruiz from Michigan could come in and be your interior offensive lineman. I happen to hate the concept of using a first round pick on an interior offensive lineman.
Yes,
I know.
agree.
I know Frank Ragnow's great. He's great, but we've watched Laken Tomlinson. He's not good. He's you could have gotten him 3 rounds later, and it would have been fine.
Well, and I like this interior offensive line class as a whole in the middle of day 2, early day 3, and at 67.85, if they're spending that pick on, let's say, a Ben Bredesen out of Michigan or a John Simpson out of Clemson, I'm perfectly fine with that. Do they necessarily fit the scheme of the zone blocking scheme? Not necessarily, but those guys could be plug-and-play right guards for sure. I want to ask you this, and I like that you brought up, Denzel Mims and Brandon Ayuk. I'm not the highest on Mims as others. I mean, he's around 40, 45 on my board, that my big board that will be dropping this week. And a lot of it is because he's not constantly getting open, but he is physical, and you saw that up close at the Senior Bowl. But Brandon Ayuk, I think, would be fantastic for this offense just because of what he can do after the catch. I think that's something that this offense has missed since Golden Tate was gone.
Oh, absolutely. That's my standard line with him is if you miss Golden Tate, you're really going to like Brandon Ayuk, and you'd love him in Detroit because he's the same guy.
Well, and I would love to take him at 26 simply because Green Bay is there at 30, and I am so fearful that they're going to take him because they need him. And
they do.
And he would be
he'd be good there too, wouldn't he?
He would be really good there. So it's like, it would be awesome if we got him at 26. But this was the question that I was going to ask is there a possibility that we see the Lions take a running back with one of their, I don't know, if they get 26 in this scenario, they get 5, 26, and 35. Within 26 and 35, could we see them take a running back, not to get a compliment for Kerryon Johnson, but to get Kerryon Johnson to complement one of those backs like a Jonathan Taylor out of Wisconsin, a DeAndre Swift out of Georgia, or even a Clyde Edwards-Helaire out of LSU, who I like quite a bit for this specific offense. So would you be opposed to them taking a running back in the first round?
I would be. I'm not I'm not someone who believes that a running back should be taken that high. If you look at the free agent market this year, it tells you what the NFL thinks of running backs and premium running backs.
Mm-hmm.
You're paying a lot of times for what they did in college rather than what they can do for you in the pros. And I look at Saquon Barkley. I look at Nick Chubb. Both of those guys are phenomenal running backs that came out a couple of years ago. Have they helped their teams win? No.
That's true. That's a good point.
I'd argue that the Giants are worse, despite having Barkley, who deserves winning Rookie of the Year and is a fantastic player. Is Christian McCaffrey, is he helping Carolina win all that many games? Not really. The premium running backs, they look great, but they don't really help you win all that much.
Right.
And this Lions team is not a running back away from winning football games.
Mm-hmm.
They're much more of a pass rusher away, a impact linebacker, although I think Collins can probably be that guy, an impact defensive tackle, an impact wide receiver, speed wide receiver. All those are much more integral to winning football games than a running back would be. Would it be nice to have a better running game? Heck yeah, it would. But you can get a guy, my guy Darrington Evans in the 4th or 5th round. I love that kid out of Appalachian State. There's a lot of other running back options that are in that range, that you can get on day 2 or day 3. So I would much rather wait for that. I know there's a lot of people that like, a guy like Jonathan Taylor. He's a great player. He's got 1,000 carries almost.
Yeah.
Fumbles the ball, doesn't particularly contribute in the passing game all that much. You can get a guy like, just some later guys, Keyshawn Vaughn out of Vanderbilt, another Senior Bowl guy. I think he fits the offense very well. A.J. Dillon out of Boston College seems to be a fan favorite of a lot of Lions Twitter. I don't necessarily see it all that much, but if you're looking for a guy to be that sledgehammer between the tackles back who can, on 3rd and 2, get you 3 every time, you can do that just fine. And I think that's more of an economical and analytical fit than what we would see from taking a guy like DeAndre Swift, who I'm not that high. He's not even in my top 5 running backs. I just don't. He's a speed running back that isn't fast. I don't see how that works in the NFL. I just don't.
Agreed. I'm with you on Swift. I have him in my top 5, but he, for me is just, I think he's more explosive. I think he, explosive cuts, but that's about it. I don't think he can carry the load. I don't think he's got a thick lower body. I just have certainly some concerns with him compared to some of the other guys. And I like that you brought up Evans because he's been on the timeline like crazy the last couple of days, and that's Darrington Evans out of Appalachian State, a player that I'm hoping to watch more of because, he had a great combine. He ran a 4.41, and if you can get a guy like that in the 4th, 5th round, yeah, certainly him and Kerryon Johnson could probably complement each other pretty well. I think you could probably establish the run a little bit better. And certainly another guy I like is Darius Anderson or Jet Anderson out of TCU. I think he's a perfect fit for a zone scheme. He's got great vision. So, that would be a guy that you didn't even take, in the 6th round at 183 or something, maybe 167. Right. So I'm with you in that sense. I've seen that question pop up quite a bit as far as taking one of these premier backs. It sounds great and all, but at the same time, when you have Matthew Stafford and at the same time, your defense is not where it needs to be, you need to get this defense right. So obviously taking a corner's a top need. We have not talked about the edge rusher position. There's probably a couple of guys at 35 or 67 that you would probably be a big fan of. Who are some guys on day 2 and maybe even at 26 if they were to get that pick, but really on day 2, who are some edge rushers that you like for this team?
Yeah, and how that draft shakes out, the players that's there at 26 might be there at 35. Just depends on sort of dealer's choice there. Guys like Yetur Gross-Matos out of Penn State. I'm a Zach Baun fan, although I think he's probably better to be a situational edge and more of an off-ball. So he plays the same position in college that Joe Schobert and T.J. Watt did. Obviously, those guys are very different NFL players. They're both really good. I think Baun is going to go more of the Schobert route and become a primarily off-the-ball linebacker. I do think he's got a little bit more natural pass rush to him, though, so I think you can see him be used that way more. A.J. Epinesa is a guy that I seem to like more than everybody else. I like how he wins. How he wins in college is going to translate to how he wins in the pros. It's not sexy. It's not sizzling, but it works. He wins in college the same way J.J. Watt did. And a lot of people doubted that J.J. Watt could do it. Watt's a much better athlete than Epinesa, and that certainly has to factor in, but that's why you're getting Epinesa at 35. A guy like that I think would be great. There's some other guys, there's kind of a gap there then before you get to like your third round guys, guys like Josh Uche, Bradley Anai, Jonathan Greenard, who's the guy from Alabama that fits that bill?
Terrell Lewis.
Yes, thank you. Yes, all those guys fit there in the later part of day two. And
Yeah.
I look at day two picks, especially into your third round. Those picks get traded. I think the rate is 42% of third round picks get traded.
Oh wow!
So you're looking there's a lot of movement room there if you want to go up or down and pick up an extra day three pick, or the big thing that you do is you switch spots in the third round and you get a second round pick the next year, or a third round pick the next year. That seems to be like the going tax. I know from covering the Houston Texans for a while they were masters that they did that every year. So I wouldn't get married to being, 67 is the spot right now? I wouldn't get married to that spot.
I was going to just say that. I was going to say, I bet you any money we move from 67 to 61 or 57 or something, and, getting up into that range and getting rid of our fourth rounder and moving up to get a guy. So I don't know exactly who that.
And keep in mind, the Lions do have 2 third rounders. So they have some flexibility there if they want to get up into that second. Hey, take both of our third rounders. We like who would be falling? Let's say Brandon Ayuk somehow falls.
Yeah.
And they want to get that next third, or a guy like Justin Jefferson, or
maybe
there's some options there. Where you can get into the 50s with your 2 third round picks and get a guy who can help you a little bit more than 2 good starters or potential starters. You're getting one more impactful player at a position where you really need it. I think that's something that Quinn and company should be looking at doing.
Yeah, for sure. As you brought up Epinesa, I think you're right as far as, I think there's somewhat of an overreaction to him. I know he's fallen down quite a few boards, and I think he fits exactly what the Lions are looking for off the edge. I mean, because if you watch the edge rushers on the Lions, there's not a whole lot of hand usage, not really a pass rush plan. It's more so maintain your gap, bull rush, stuff like that. Well, that's what Epinesa won with. I mean, that's what he did. He loved a long arm. He loved a bull rush. So if he's there at 26 or 35, man, just run it up there and get the pick in, because you need a player like that has that type of length and that type of production at the college level that can translate to the NFL. Now, I'm not saying he's going to come out and get you 12 to 15 sacks, but if he can get you 10 and a half almost consistently, I think that's going to work for you. Plus, he's going to help stop the run. So I like that thought. I hope that's something they consider. I would be all for Bradley Anai. That's one of my guys in this draft. Hopefully that's something they consider. Now, do you have any surprise picks? I mean, I know Bob Quinn loves to kind of, I don't know.
Yes, he does.
he likes to reach on guys, it seems like. We saw it with Tavai last year. We saw him move up and draft the running back. We've seen Tracy Walker, Kenny Golladay, quite a few guys. Is there a name or two that you think that they could be considering at 35, 67, 85, wherever, that might surprise some people?
One of the guys that I've looked at that I think fits what they're looking for at cornerback is Ojemudia out of Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a longer guy, not necessarily fast, but can play pretty well all around. That seems to be the kind of guy that they get. He's generally a 4th or a 5th round guy, and I could see the Lions taking a third on him. I'll bring up a guy that my colleague at Lions Wire, Eric Schlitt, brought up. Elam from Arkansas, the defensive tackle.
Yeah.
Another guy who's generally projected to be, 90 to 120 overall, which is, late 3rd or to the 4th round. Eric actually wrote a really good piece. I'll shamelessly promote it for him, that he would be the surprise 2nd round pick. And it made a lot of sense to me. So I'll roll with that one too. Good job, Eric.
Yeah, well, and that's really where the question kind of stemmed from, because I saw the article and I was like, all right, well, Eric's got his guy. I want to know if Jeff's got a couple of guys.
Offensive linemen are weird in that area because you're generally taking guys that are either projects or coming off injury or limited athletes or something like that. I happen to really like Lucas Nyang, and I wonder if the injury history is going to drop him down where a lot of people are not going to know who he is or what he did out of TCU. He played with a hip ailment last year before he got shut down. The year before that, he was the best, most effective blocker against Chase Young that Chase Young ever faced in college. that says something to me. As if he's healthy and gets back, he could be a second-round guy that, if you look at most mock drafts, he's probably floating in the third, maybe the fourth round, just because a lot of guys don't know about him because he did play hurt. So he would probably be my most qualifying guy for that.
Yeah, I like the thought of Niang. He's 59th on my board, so right around that end of the second round, early day, or early round 3 for this draft. It's going to be very interesting. I don't think I have anything else as far as questions on the draft side. I guess I will ask just the one question that I've seen it pop up. We all think Joe Burrow's going first overall, right? You don't think it's going to be anything out of the ordinary?
I would be stunned. I would be absolutely shocked. The angle that he's an Ohio kid and wants to stay and play in Cincinnati, I think that says a lot for Cincinnati. So I don't see them going any other way.
Yeah, I agree. I saw something this morning and I was like, I don't know who this guy is, so I'm not going to buy it, but I'll ask Jeff. So, well, Jeff, I do appreciate your time. It's always great talking Lions with you. It's going to be fun to see what happens in about a week and a half of what our team does, whether it's taking Jeff Okudah, getting some extra picks, doing some things. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm sure I'll talk to you during that time. Where can we find your work on Twitter, the Lions Wire, all that stuff? What do you got coming out?
Yeah, the easiest way to get me is on Twitter at Jeff Risdon, Risdon. It's all one word. Run together anyways. I just put up this morning a pass rusher for every round of the draft. I did a running back one. I got a couple other ones cooking. And it's not the pass rusher in the first round that you might think. It's not Chase Young. So there's we're having a lot of fun with those. We got mock drafts, mock draft analysis where we tear other people's down, which is always fun to do. And so you can find me there, Lions Wire. Use the Wire Sites app, and I can't think of what the name of it is, Sports Wire or something like that. It's on your phone, and the bonus of that app is that when you use it, the multi-page ones come out on one page. You don't have to click through it. It just shows up on one screen, which is a handy little thing. I also have a lot of stuff coming at Real GM. That's fun. That's a little more general, a broader draft, like wide NFL draft, and I try to have some fun with that. Everybody takes it too seriously, so I try to lighten it up a little bit.
There you go.
Yeah, and I will say this just for Lions fans: you're going to hate one of the picks. It happens every year. Try not to hate on it too early, because last year everybody hated on Jelani Tavai. He wound up being pretty good. Just keep that in mind. Give it a little bit of time. I hated the Will Harris pick personally, much, much worse. I'm still not 100% around on it, but he was better than I thought he'd be. So he made the team. So
yeah,
you got to reserve the judgment on a little bit. And just because you haven't heard of a guy doesn't mean he's terrible.
Exactly. Well, and that's the thing. It's, they've got area scouts all over the place. They're doing their work, no doubt about it, whether we agree or disagree. That's the way it rolls. So you guys smash that follow button for Jeff at Jeff Risdon on Twitter. Of course, me as well at Russ NFL Draft. Jeff, thank you again, my man. Be safe. Keep washing them hands. Until next time, everybody, this is Cover One, the Draft Podcast.